The Guggenheim Museum at its inception in 1939 was known as the Museum of Non-Objective Painting, established by Solomon R Guggenheim. The building on Fifth Avenue was designed by Lloyd Wright and opened in October 1959, 6 months after the architect's death. It is one of 8 Wright-designed buildings in the world designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The museum's first director, Hilla Rebay, told Wright that she wanted a temple of spirit with sweeping curves to break Manhattan's urban grid. What she got was an optimistic ziggurat designed in a grand spiral that leads up to a central dome with an uninterrupted beautiful symphony of art and architecture. Tickets are $30 for adults, $19 for seniors and students 13 and over, free for 12 and under. A Poem for Deep Thinkers is Rashid Johnson's major solo exhibition that highlights his role as a scholar of art history and a mediator of Black popular culture. Johnson is an art history scholar from Chicago who draws upon a wide array of disciplines and has established himself as a creative force in contemporary art. Lloyd Wright intended visitors to tour the museum from the top floors down, but visitors can go in any direction that suits their artistic preferences or physical abilities. The rotundous ramp is a quarter-mile long that inclines at 3 degrees. The artwork are displayed at an angle of 1.5 degrees that makes them appear straight to the human eye. Johnson melted black soap and wax into the wood flooring to create a poured paint finish, then branded the surface with heated metal rods to produce a dense textured pattern. Some of Johnson's installations take up most of the 7th floor and serve as a place for creativity and ideas. The grid-like structure evokes the systematic logic of Sol LeWitt's modular forms. The Rashid Johnson's exhibition ended on January 19th. Across the 7th floor is a special exhibition that has been on loan from the Rauschenberg Foundation since October of 2025 to celebrate the artist's 100th birthday. The centerpiece of the exhibition is a monumental 32-foot-long silkscreen painting that is the largest in a series of approximately 80 paintings Rauschenberg created in 1962 and 1964. The exhibition is a tribute to Rauschenberg's radical use of materials and media that pushed the boundary of creativity and experimental spirit in contemporary art. Rauschenberg applied chemical solvents such as lighted fluid to pre-printed images to facilitate a clearer and more complete transfer. He used newspaper and magazines as a medium, transferring the imagery directly onto paper. He also screen-printed images onto galvanized steel and embellished them with broad brushstrokes and splashes of paint. The special exhibition of Gabriele Münter is spread across 3 galleries on the 5th and 4th floor that focus on her commitment to everyday life, shaped by travel, place, and community, defined by curiosity. Münter developed her portrait techniques when she was in Paris in 1906-07, where the non-naturalistic colors of the Fauvism, or the wild beast movement championed by Henri Matisse, was taking shape. She used an expressive palette to capture the inner life of her subjects with empathy and an astute understanding of the human condition. Münter considered portrait painting the most difficult, the most spiritual, and the most extreme task for an artist. She invites viewers to look actively as co-protagonists with different viewpoints and sensations mingled with self-expression. This composition was modeled by Franco-German painter Louis Albert Lassard, whom Münter met in Munich and later again in Berlin. Anna Roslin's sister Nell and her husband actively promoted Münter's paintings in Germany during her exile to Scandinavia. Münter focused on the psychological states of her subjects and the spaces when painting interior scenes, and combined portraits and still life in one composition with playful fluidity. Her scenes tended to be more ambiguous to encourage the viewers to take closer looks and form meaningful interpretation of the scenes. She imbued the paintings with latent tension and a sense of unpredictability to depict the unresolved aspect of human experience. The emphasis on human figures re-emerges again and again. Münter co-founded the new Munich Artists Association in 1909 with Bassi and was a core member of the Blue Rider, which Kandinsky co-founded with Franz Mack in 1911. Münter reflected in 1952 that the task of representing the human being is so great that she never felt herself tempted to go beyond it. The exhibition views Münter's work as a whole, one that reviews a life defined by curiosity, one rooted in local encounters, yet profoundly informed by a belief of shared humanity. Her work also included landscapes and still life in vivid palettes developed during her travels around Europe and in Tunisia. She pursued quasi-spiritual expressionism by commingling objects in dark backgrounds, material dissolution, and synthetic individuality. Her artistic style further evolved during World War I in response to the cultural shifts in Europe. This 19th century Russian sculpture-inspired depiction of St. George demonstrates affinities between cultures and disciplines where spiritualism can overcome materialism. Münter experimented with the photography techniques of distant and closed-up views in this oil on board that either draws the viewer into the composition or removes them to a distance. She visited the United States with her sister Emma between 1898 and 1900, where she purchased an Eastman Kodak No. 2 bull's-eye camera to practice photography. The third floor is Café Rebay, named after the museum's first president, Hilla Rebay. It offers views of Central Park while visitors enjoy a selection of pastries, chocolates, fresh sandwiches, salads, as well as coffee, tea, wine, and beer. The Modern European Gallery focuses on the transformative turning point in European art that gave rise to abstraction. The movement was swept by social and economic changes that brought the experiment of vivid colors, flattened forms, and heightened expressions. It features artworks from Goncharova, Kandinsky, and Mark, among others who were part of the wave of artistic innovation in spiritual and natural form of abstraction. These paintings of the Bavarian countryside were painted during the years Kandinsky spent there with his companion Gabriele Münter, who purchased a house there. This composition depicts the impression of Moscow that Kandinsky experienced during the visit to his homeland in 1912. This composition is part of the first exhibition of the expressionist group the Blue Rider that Mark co-founded with Kandinsky in 1911. Kirchner was the co-founding member of the other German expressionist group Die Brücke in 1905. Goethe later became his romantic partner. Jolensky's painting style is said to be a blend of post-impressionism like Gauguin or Van Gogh and of Fauvism like that of Henri Matisse. This is said to be the self-portrait of Kokoschka, while the winged figure above is interpreted as the artist's alternate self. The es in the composition is believed to refer to the Aramaic phrase, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" This composition of cats in Rayonist style was created right after the 1912 The Blue Rider exhibition in Munich to promote the Russian painting method, which was co-developed with Mikhail Larionov. The Thannhauser Gallery is the former private collection of Justin Thannhauser, who was a leading figure in the dissemination of modern art in Europe. He and his father Heinrich held art exhibitions that featured French Impressionists and Post-Impressionists as well as the German Expressionists through their modern gallery founded in Munich in 1909. These renditions, made from the fifth-floor corner apartment in Paris, were part of a 4-panel painting commissioned by playwright Henry Bernstein for his private residence. Each panel would capture a different segment of the Parisian park at a different time of the day. Today, the park is known as Place Adolphe Max. Thannhauser shares the same passion and vision for the advancement of modern artists as Solomon Guggenheim and donated his private collection to the foundation in 1963. This composition, in the style of the old masters like Van Dyck or Velázquez, was unfinished when it was discovered after the death of Manet. The color of the dress was later carefully restored by Guggenheim to its original blue-violet hues from 2015 to 2018. This composition depicted two themes: the dancers waiting in their wings without regard to any audience, or Degas' interest in the mechanics of the ballerina's movements. Bernard belonged to a group called the Nabis, which is Hebrew for prophets, that painted mythical scenes that invoke psychic states beyond the ordinary. The model in this oil on canvas is Lise Trejo, who was Renoir's close companion for 6 years and was featured in many of his paintings. The painting represented the daily experience of a typical Parisian woman who, like a parakeet, was mostly confined to indoor domestic spaces. Van Gogh was undeterred by the snow when he arrived in this countryside in the Provençal region and painted this somber landscape with bright, colorful palettes. This roadway through an underpass was in Agnières-sur-Seine, a suburb of Paris. This dizzying crowd depicts the celebration of the French national holiday. Gauguin was known for primitivism, the romanticized misconception and appropriation of non-European cultures like this one in Tahiti, a French colony. Gauguin was a successful stockbroker before becoming an artist without any formal art training. Braque was inspired by Matisse's Fauvism-style paintings and tried it during his trip to Antwerp to paint with brushwork that emphasized pigments and lines. Cézanne shifted from Impressionism to a more geometric concept to focus on color, tone, and light to add more tensions and contradictions. This Kandinsky painting is actually not part of the original Thannhauser collection. Kandinsky once called the Thannhauser Modern Gallery perhaps the most beautiful exhibition spaces in all of Munich. Guggenheim built a collection that eventually included over 150 works by Kandinsky. Before exiting the museum, stop by the museum store for some souvenir gifts. There's a smaller store on the 6th floor. If you found this video helpful, please click on the like button below or subscribe to our channel. Check out our next video on the Jewish Museum.